Another month has come and gone, which means it's time for another mock draft to come your way. Here on this channel, every season I post one mock draft per month leading up to the actual draft to keep all of you viewers up to date on the current status of the next generation of draft prospects. And while mock drafts shouldn't be taken literally in the sense that these are who each team will pick because of how far away the draft actually is, it is useful for fans to see where things stand at the moment, both with how the NBA standings are going and how the draft prospects are performing. We always see plenty of late bloomers shoot up draft boards as the season progresses, so by doing these mock drafts, you can see who is on the rise and who is falling as the season goes on. The order, as always, is based on the current NBA standings, and we'll be going through the lottery for the picks made. Before we start though, I want to thank PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. PrizePicks is the perfect service for all of us basketball fans here because when you're involved, it makes watching games every night so much more fun and engaging. Basically, it's an application that provides you with lines on all kinds of individual player props, such as points, rebounds, assists, and three-pointers made, and you simply have to choose whether you believe the player will record over the set amount in the line or under the set amount in the line. Make your selections, wager however much you want to, and if your picks hit, you can win some big money. For some picks I'm looking at making for today's slate of games, I'm thinking of going with Kyrie Irving to score over 22.5 points, Patty Mills to make over 2.5 threes, and Nasir Little to make over 1.5 threes. If this sounds at all intriguing to you, then go use the link in the description of the video today to sign up and use promo code REFERENCE to receive a 100% deposit match bonus up to $100. Once again, thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back into the topic at hand. Starting things off with the number 1 pick in the draft, the Orlando Magic select Jabari Smith Jr. from Auburn. Smith didn't begin the year as the top prospect, but the more we see from him, the harder it becomes to deny that he belongs at the top. It's incredibly close between him and the next two players I'll be discussing, but for now, he's definitely earned the edge over them because of his unbelievable shooting ability as a 6'10" player, his versatility on both ends of the floor, and how well balanced his production is. He brings everything you want to see from a player that can impact winning basketball, and that could go a long way for a young Magic team. Next up with the second pick, the Detroit Pistons select Paolo Banchero from Duke. Banchero may have been dethroned as the top dog in this draft for now, but that doesn't mean he isn't also a player with superstar potential. Banchero has such a unique combination of brute strength, shiftiness, and mobility that makes him a potential matchup nightmare as he continues to develop, and he's already showing strong signs of being able to create and take advantage of those mismatches. If you throw a smaller player on him, he can confidently shoot over the top of them, and if you throw a big player on him, he's quicker and shiftier than most players that size, so he can beat them off the dribble. Plus, with Jeremy Grant likely gone after this season, Banchero can slide right into the Pistons lineup seamlessly. Next up with the third pick, the Houston Rockets select Chet Holmgren from Gonzaga. Holmgren rounds out the top tier of prospects as the three players we've discussed will all be in the discussion for the number 1 pick when that time comes, but whoever slips to 3, the Rockets will gladly take still. Holmgren has unbelievable defensive potential, already blocking shots and protecting the rim at an elite rate, and with good discipline and fearlessness against any matchup, regardless of how much stronger they may be. Speaking of which, he is definitely pretty skinny and will need to bulk up for NBA competition, but there are people out there that seem to be petrified of him possibly being a bust because of how skinny he is, which I think is definitely a huge overreaction. Up next with the fourth pick, the Oklahoma City Thunder select Jaden Ivey from Purdue. Ivey is the best available of the next tier of talent as an explosive guard that can get where he wants on the court with ease. He's a second-year player that has taken massive strides as a primary ball handler and initiator of the offense. His perimeter shooting went from being subpar last year to legitimately useful as he now makes 43% of his threes this year, and his athleticism will entice any NBA team. But for the Thunder specifically, his skill set would definitely match pretty well alongside Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the backcourt. Up next with the fifth pick in the draft, the Indiana Pacers select Johnny Davis from Wisconsin. Since my last mock draft, Johnny Davis's stock in the draft has soared higher than arguably any other player, as he has gone from a fringe first-round talent at the start of the season to now being looked at as one of the best players in the entire draft, and for good reason. Simply put, Davis is a bucket, and he doesn't need the ball in his hands to create opportunities to score for himself either. His off-ball movement is fantastic, cutting into space, he excels off the dribble when he has the ball, his finishing around the basket ranks amongst the best in the class, and he's averaging 22 points per game, leading Wisconsin to a much more overall successful season than many thought they would have. Next up, with the 6th pick in the draft, the New Orleans Pelicans select Bennedict Mathurin from Arizona. Mathurin is another prospect who has steadily risen up draft boards all season long because of how dominant he's been in the college game. He's averaging 18 points per game, he's got a strong physical profile as a 6'6" guard, and when he attacks the basket, his explosiveness shines. He's not just a player that brings intrigue because of his athleticism though, because he's a career 39% shooter from 3, and while he may not be someone who will be a go-to scorer as a number 1 option in the NBA, he's a great player to have in any lineup. Up next, with the 7th pick in the draft, the San Antonio Spurs select Kendall Brown from Baylor. Baylor lost 2 studs to the NBA draft after winning it all last season, but Brown has come in as a freshman and helped fill the void left behind by them in a big way. He's a big, long wing player that projects as a fantastic perimeter defender, but offensively he is admittedly still a bit of a work in progress. He's actually an incredibly efficient scorer right now, making 67% of his shots as a wing player, which is pretty crazy, but he needs to improve as an outside shooter to become more valuable. Next up, with the 8th pick in the draft, the Sacramento Kings select Keegan Murray from Iowa. He's been one of the most productive players in college basketball this year, averaging 24 points and 8 rebounds per game, while also making 59% of his shots. He may not be a flashy player that can say he's elite at any one particular thing, but especially offensively, he is so well-rounded and is very good at so many different things, with a wide array of moves at his disposal to get buckets. Up next, with the 9th pick in the draft, the Atlanta Hawks select Jalen Duren from Memphis. Duren, to put it lightly, has somewhat disappointed this season. He came in as one of the most highly rated prospects, but has been gradually slipping over time. He has everything you want physically and athletically from a big man, and he can get out in transition, finish above the rim, and crash the glass as hard as anyone, but he has struggled overall offensively. He needs to be more disciplined on defense by cutting back on the fouling, and his overall decision making can be pretty spotty too. He's still definitely worth a pick in the top 10 though, because of that ridiculous upside. He just isn't the lock for the top 5 that he once was viewed as. Next up, with the 10th pick in the draft, the Portland Trail Blazers select Dyson Daniels from G League Ignite. Daniels has overtaken Jaden Hardy as the top-ranked player in the G League Ignite program, not because of his production being spectacular or out of this world, but because his playstyle and skill set bring exactly what fits into the NBA now. He can play both guard positions, he's a smart playmaker and passer, he's unselfish, and he can defend multiple positions on defense, which is something he's been showing against G League competition. Up next, with the 11th pick, the Minnesota Timberwolves select Patrick Baldwin from Milwaukee. Baldwin chose to play for the team that his father coaches in a mid-major league, which definitely needs to be taken into consideration because the team he's on right now is not very good. So while he individually hasn't been fantastic, he doesn't have much to work with. In the NBA, he would probably be best served as a floor-spacing, multifaceted defender, but he's forced to be more of an initiator on offense right now, which isn't exactly one of his strengths. NBA scouts for the most part aren't dumb, they know this, and it's why they still see the upside in him despite his overall struggles in this role. Next up, with the 12th pick, the New York Knicks select TyTy Washington from Kentucky. TyTy Washington's career began with a bit of a dud against Duke on the big stage, but ever since then, he has settled into becoming the player most expected him to be, as a dynamic 3-level scorer and playmaker. He's averaging about 15 points per game while shooting 52% from the field and 41% from 3, and if we've learned anything over the years, it's that Kentucky guards are more often than not worth drafting. Up next, with the 13th pick, the Boston Celtics select Ochai Agbaji from Kansas. This draft class has more upperclassmen than usual, including Agbaji, but he's another guy dominating the college game right now as a premier shot creator by scoring over 20 a night on unreal shooting splits of 53% from the field and 47% from three. At worst, he's instant offense off the bench of a team in the NBA, and at best, he rounds out a starting lineup as a secondary scoring option, which is pretty good value for the end of the lottery. And finally, to round out the lottery today, the Toronto Raptors select AJ Griffin from Duke. Griffin got injured in training camp, so early on he was recovering from that, but over the last few weeks, he's looked like the sturdy, shot-creating wing player that scouts fell in love with as he was coming through the ranks. He's someone with so many potential outcomes that could go down between now and the time of the draft because of these health worries and inconsistencies, but for now, he's trending upward, with the potential to rise even higher. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below who you want to see your favorite team draft this year. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.